Prince is a believer, and me, I'm a person that I'm trying to reconnect with God.
Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the very first episode of our very own podcast called Reflecting, of course. Of course, I'm your host, Prince Amiri, the rose of the industry, the Congolese papi. I'm saved to serve and I serve by grace. Of course, I got my co-host with me, the guy in orange, the man himself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome to our first episode. My name is Kampe Gomes. You're gonna see me always fresh, always clean. So guys, welcome to the Reflecting, of course, and relax your mind and let me explain you a little bit what we're going to be talking about.
So yeah, man, this podcast is something that we came up with based off like private conversations that we always had. We always had conversations based off faith, business, the current state of our society, and just relationships in general, be it family, be it any type of relationships. And we just thought that we should share this on a public platform and just to see how you guys may be edified by it, you know. One of the other things that we find important in this podcast is faith, you know, and that's something that we're also going to share to really correlate with everything that we're going through in life. You know, I believe God is the maker of heaven and earth, and I believe that He has the answers to everything that happens in our lives. You know, God is all-knowing, He's all-seeing. It actually reminds me of this verse in the book of Psalms where David was saying, "You have searched me, Lord, and you've known me. You know where I sit and you know where I lay. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my laying down. You're familiar with all my ways." And like this verse just shows you that God is all-knowing. God knows literally everything. There's nothing that you can do that can surprise God. And in this podcast, we just want to share our personal life experiences, probably in hindsight and in lifetime, and just correlate it with the Word of God and what's happening in the world right now, and just have a good time, you know? And yeah, man, raw and filtered.
That's completely true, man. So I'm completely glad that we started this podcast. We've been wanting to do this for like quite a long time.
Yeah.
Because like you said,
Definitely.
we normally have these conversations about businesses, faith, family dynamics, friendship dynamics. And then we decided like, why not record this? Because this is actually conversations that are refreshing, okay? They are real. We always talk about things that normally go through every day, like has depth and emotion. So you're gonna be hearing from us like a lot more, right? And the good thing about our podcast is that we both have different perspectives about a lot of things. And then we come to a point that we share our different perspectives, always with respect. And it's something that actually ended up helping us pour in each other's cup and helping us being a better version of ourselves. Because Prince is a believer, and me, I'm a person that I'm trying to reconnect with God, like found my own relationship with God.
Yeah.
And in this way, we can help each other and always bring like a good conversation that you guys can feel related to.
Definitely. I mean, look, with our audience, I know that there will be people here who are not really familiar and who are trying to reconnect with the Lord. And I believe you will be able to resonate more with this podcast. And also for those who have a relationship with God and want to grow more and just want to keep on going higher and higher, this is also a podcast that you'll be able to resonate with. And we'll be speaking about so many things, like I said before, and everything that happens in current society. And we'll just dive deeper. And from there, we'll see how it goes. So welcome to Reflecting, of course.
So now, guys, we're going to tell a little bit about the goals for our podcast. And the first one we're going to be talking about is encouraging people to have meaningful connections. So our goals for our podcast is called the 4 Reflecting Pillars. And that being said, the encourage meaningful connections, it came from like personal experiences. Because every long-lasting relationship that I've had with friends or people that are close to me actually came from me being vulnerable and sharing my real thoughts and the real me. And that's something that when you know who you are, it becomes easier to deal with other people.
Yeah.
So being authentic will provide you with long-lasting relationships. So that's why we decided to have this one as one of our pillars for our podcast.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that as we were like searching for like what we're gonna have as our goals or pillars for our podcast, I ended up finding an actual study made by Harvard University that they were trying to find, let's say, the key for happiness, the key of having a happy and healthier life. And they studied the life of 700 men and their spouses for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So they started around 1930s. So imagine that, and it's still going till this day.
Yeah.
So going back to that, the funny thing is, as you think about what is gonna make your life be fulfilled, status,
money, like whatever.
Like, but the funny thing that I ended up finding that the key factor to have a happy and healthier life is actually the relationship that you have. And the more I read the article, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because I've always been a person that always dealt with everything by myself. Anything that life throws me, I always ended up dealing with everything by myself. And you get to a point that it becomes really hard. And since I started sharing more with the people that are close to me, everything in a way became easier to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose to have this one as one of the pillars for our podcast.
It's actually crazy because I was also checking out the same study yesterday. I think the director of the study was Dr. Robert Waldinger, and he was quoted saying that taking care of your body is important, but tending to your relationships is also a form of self-care. And I feel that's a revelation on its own, because when you look at the relationships that you have, when you nurture them and when you take care of your relationship, it gives you a certain level of comfortability, and it gives you a certain level of understanding of the people around you in a sense. Because I feel like if I tend to the relationship that I have with my friends, for instance, I tend to the relationship I have with Kampe, my understanding of him may grow more, and my understanding of the world may grow more, because we learn from each other, we pour into each other's cup. You know, I feel like especially in the time of COVID, people were expected to be at home more, whereas yes, we had relationships, but we were forced to, in a sense, be in a confined space with the people that we have quote unquote relationships with, to a point where we realized that our relationships are not even as strong as we thought they were.
Yeah.
And of course, like, people always get annoyed with each other. That's just human nature when you're with people. But like, I realized that like people are just not as close as they think they are.
Yeah.
And COVID showed that, the pandemic showed that, lockdown showed that. And I just believe that when you encourage meaningful connections, you take away the veil and actually be your authentic self. You know, I feel like a lot of people right now in this day and age know about each other and they don't really know each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's completely true. Nowadays,
people just know about each other.
People don't ask the difficult questions.
Exactly. And you get to a point where you are living a facade. You're living a certain type of hype or dream that you're portraying because you don't want to let people in, and vice versa. And it goes back to just having a pure relationship. When you look at it in the Word of God, and just like in as being a believer, when you know about God, it's not the same as knowing God. I can know that God is a healer, God is a deliverer, God is a God who has made heaven and earth, gold and silver belong to him. But like, if I do not know God for who he is to me personally, then I actually don't know him. Then I actually don't have a relationship with him. Then I don't have a meaningful connection. If I know God as my deliverer, my healer, my source, then to compare, God can be his best friend, but that's the same God, but we have different relationships.
Exactly. That's the same. Yeah,
exactly.
It's the same thing like we were saying in the beginning. Me trying to find my own relationship with God. Yeah, but that's completely true. I completely agree with you, bro.
Yeah, because we can never know God for as the same thing because we have different relationships with Him. But that only comes when you get to know Him and have a relationship with Him, and that goes for even just having relationships with the people around you.
Yeah.
If you actually tend to your relationships and actually be authentic and be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to people, people will know you as opposed to knowing about you. Of course, you may feel that we're in a vicious world where people may use you, take advantage.
But that's a good thing, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even for us men and black men, it's not something that even saying the actual word, people are gonna be like,
it's wild, eh?
It's wild.
It's wild. Like,
what are you saying?
Literally, like,
yeah, man.
just saying you're vulnerable as a man, a
As
black
a
man
man.
in society.
Hey.
It's crazy because we've always been bred to have the stigma or to have the thing where black men are tough.
You need to look like an alpha man. You need to be tough. You need to endure everything. You cannot cry.
Yeah, which is true. You have to be tough. You have to stand. But there's still a level of being a human being that we cannot neglect.
Yeah.
And people say this generation is soft, but I believe this generation understands what the previous generation didn't, which is how to be a human. Of course, everything these days is around cancel culture. You know?
Hey, cancel.
You know?
Hey, be careful, man. Cancel.
You know? But like the truth is that like we are human beings that feel. And being vulnerable is you allowing yourself to feel, whether you're a man or you're a woman.
True, man.
You know, and that's what it is. Having relationships that are meaningful is you allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to open, and allowing yourself to be someone to someone else that you would deserve for yourself. And that's something that we're really encouraging in this podcast. This is a journey that we are on to build like these relationships with other people in our lives, and this is just what we want to share with all of y'all out there, so that you guys can also like take this type of understanding and just run with it, you know. And those are one of the pillars of our podcast.
Yeah.
So the second pillar of our podcast is inspiring personal growth. You know, personal growth is always tied to personal development, which is looking inward and focusing on ways to better yourself. And, you know, like personal growth has many facets, such as mental, social, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And in this podcast, we're just going to tap into all these aspects in a way to just let you into our journey in tapping into our full potential, and also just to encourage you to also kind of do the same in your life. Like especially when we go back to the heights of the pandemic, we got into this vicious monotony where our lives were stopped and stalled. Our dreams and goals were just put at a halt because of where the world was, and so many people kind of lost their way and lost their drive to do certain things. Personally, for me, in the time of COVID, I did a few things that made me feel a bit better, that I felt like I grew in, but I didn't take it to a point where I really maximized that time. I mean, like, I went into stock trading and I learned more about financial markets, but I felt like spiritually I could have grown more because I wanted to actually take time to really know more about God, spend time with the Lord, pray more. But that's something that I actually didn't prioritize much. And that's an aspect of personal development that many of us really don't tap into. Because when we talk personal development, we talk about physical development, emotional, mental health, and all these things. But there's also social development. There's also spiritual development. And these are the aspects that many really don't tap into. And I feel like, especially with what happened those years back, it really like stopped people from really like going into their drive and becoming even more better. And for me, my biggest fear is not reaching my full potential. You know, there's this actual story I read, or just like more like it was like a picture, an image that was on social media, and it said, on your deathbed, when you're about to take your last breath, how many ghosts of the person that you could have been are you going to see around your bed?
That's scary.
It's scary, bro.
Hey.
It's actually scary. Like, for all the times that you could have done something, for all the dreams that you could have pursued, for all the times that you could have taken opportunities and you didn't. how many ghosts of the person that you could have been are you gonna see? I feel so many times we halt our own growth, we stunt our own development because of the times that we let fear get into the way. We don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be in places where we don't feel like we have dominion, and that makes it so hard for us to grow as people. And in a way, it makes it so hard for us to achieve that certain level of potential. And I feel like as me personally, that's something that I really want to do. I want to put myself in places where I'm more uncomfortable, where I'm afraid of being in that setting, because I feel like that's where growth comes from.
No, but that's
You know what I mean?
Like, for you to grow, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. Like, yes, it's simple as that. A lot of people say, but I want to have a calm life and do this, and like, okay, but if you want to have a life that is simple, and some people want a simple life, they have to be honest about it. But if you actually want to be a better version that you were last year, the year before that, you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. And the funny thing about it is, because my life, everybody's life is hard, let's just start with that, but my life, I always had to put myself in an uncomfortable position, because I always had to find ways to get my bag. So the funny thing, like, even you said, like, the COVID was such a big problem, because I just finished university, I had a really nice job, and then COVID stopped everything. All the aspirations I had, all the dreams that I had, completely stopped. And I had to find another way of getting some way of getting some income, and but it was still not enough. That's why I ended up deciding moving to Switzerland and applying for jobs in Switzerland, because life wasn't going well here. So guys, make sure that you control your negative thoughts, because the fight starts inwards. If you can battle the version of yourself that is always there, hey, maybe it's not worth it, maybe it's not what you're doing, it's not going to work, people are going to talk about it, you're going to feel bad about it. No, it doesn't matter what people are going to say. You make sure that you follow the path that's going to make you feel happy and fulfilled. But because the worst thing, like you said before, is like, you get to a point that you look back and be like, I missed this opportunity because of what? Being afraid of not reaching that specific goal that you had. Now, the worst thing you can do is not trying. That's why we chose this as one of our goals and pillars for our podcast, because people should try and aim higher. Always. It doesn't matter the result. I don't know when this thing starting to be normal. Not trying to reach your goal. No, there is no problem. That's why every person that comes to me of any kind of project or being creative of any kind of way, I always tell them, go for it. You have all my support. If there's any way that I can support you, I will. And that's how a friendship, a family that you are in, you have to always support them. If you want to help them grow, that's how it should be. And always put yourself in an uncomfortable position so you can be better than you were the version of yourself. The old version of you gotta be in a position that is gonna grow. So make yourself work hard, and you're gonna get the results. That's the thing. And that's the funny thing. Even us doing this actually podcast is something that this is the first time doing this. And I'm pretty sure that as we continue doing this, it's going to be a beautiful thing. That's why our friendship always been related of having those different conversations. And different conversations, that's what you need to actually grow. So that's why, since we started hanging out more, we starting all these different projects. We want to like, oh, look at this, Kampe, this is actually cool. We should actually study this. That's how a friendship and a relationship that you have with someone should be. Always helping the other person being better than they were before. So that's why we chose this one as one of our pillars for our podcast. So now, guys, we're going to tell a little bit about our third pillar for our podcast that we decided to call Celebrating Diversity. The reason why is we need to start embracing the uniqueness of every individual and actually recognize the power of inclusion.
Yeah.
Right. So what we want to create here is like a space where like people can be their authentic selves, free from judgment, from prejudice, and actually see our differences as a source of inspiration and strength.
Yeah.
That's what I see from you. You know, like you are a person that you are very creative. You are very tapped in your creativity, and that's yay, my God. And that's something that I'm not like much into it, you know, because of like my household, the environment, and everything. And that's something that I like, that I'm getting inspiration from you, so I can open that door and be more free, like about my creativity. And during these podcasts, you're gonna be opening our minds, our hearts to different perspectives, and to learn about our unique experiences, to expand our horizons and learn from it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's what's up. You know, diversity is everything. You know, we both have different ways of doing things, different ways of seeing life, and that's what makes this thing a beautiful experience, because this is something that we're doing in our personal lives, and we just also want you guys to also try do it in your lives, and you'll just see how better your lives will be. And like, diversity is everything. I believe that they say opposites attract, and they say that for a reason, because when you are when you're around the same crowd or the people who are like-minded, it may not always be bad, but getting a different perspective will always broaden your horizon a bit better. And I believe that's what we're trying to do here. Inherently, we are different people, but we may share the same vision, but we diverse in our beliefs and how we go about things. And that's what makes it really powerful. And that's what we want to do in this podcast. So celebrating diversity is what's up in Reflecting, of course. Yeah, you know what's up, man. So yeah, man. So now we're gonna move on to the fourth pillar, which is fostering understanding. So the last pillar of our podcast, which is the fourth one that we mentioned before, is fostering understanding. So understanding basically coincides with celebrating diversity. Like we said before, when people have different ideas and beliefs and come from different walks of life, it always makes it a beautiful thing. But for us to really gel well, we need to understand each other. And we need to be there in a place where we're open-minded enough to see where the person's coming from and to get their perspective. You know, in this podcast right now, we have decided that we wanted to understand ourselves and the people around us even better. And that's why we also want to put this out there so that you guys can also try that. Because I believe that living without understanding is living without purpose. Living without purpose is living without a common direction or goal. You know, and when you understand a lot of things in your life and understand where you are, where you're going, and where you were, it makes things even better. But if you like make it a bit bigger and you understand the people around you, it makes life a bit easier to comprehend. And that's something that we're really trying to do in our own lives, you know. And they say you can't listen to hear, you need to listen to understand. That's what we're trying to foster in this pillar when we foster understanding. And that's really just how we just try to go about it in our personal lives.
Yeah. We actually following these pillars that we decided to have for our podcast. But exactly like you said, there is not much else I can add in what you said, but it's to start listening more and judge less, right? And allow yourself to comprehend the perspective and the life experience that the other person has had. You know, it's actually going to be a plus for your life. But one thing that sometimes to do that, you have to actually stop and allow yourself to listen and comprehend what the other person is trying to tell you or show you, right? You have to put your prejudice aside, your bias that you have aside, and go and engage with that conversation with curiosity and like with desire to actually learn. Because if you don't do that, it might be hard to actually allow yourself to learn and grow from that same conversation or from that interaction.
That's literally what's up. And during this whole podcast, you'll be able to see our growth as human beings, our growth as men, and you'll be able to go on this journey with us. And hopefully, we can also hear about your journey in the comment section.
Exactly.
With whatever you feel that you were going through, that you are understanding better within these 4 pillars. And I just want us to really just take this time to be vulnerable, to be open, and to just be able to interact with each other on any means necessary, rather on Instagram, on YouTube, on the comment section,
Instagram, exactly.
anything, you know. So this is the time where we're reflecting, of course, and we're just gonna dive deeper. But hence, this is the pilot episode. We just want to also just give you guys a bit of background of who we are. Not too much, because you will be finding that as we go in the series. But like, this is just a small one, so you can just know who you're dealing with. So yeah, you know, it's the best way, so you can understand and you will know who resonate better with you.
Yeah.
So I'll start with myself. My name is Prince. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, and a public speaker. I was living in South Africa for the better part of my life, but originally I'm from Congo, and I moved to Europe a few years ago. That's where I met this guy, and then we made this beautiful thing. I also love poetry. I'm a reflector, of course, and I'm just someone who really just loves to interact with people. I'm a pastor's son, so that doesn't mean that my faith comes from there, but my faith comes from the fact that I took time to get a relationship with the Lord, which I still want to build and keep on going. But that's the life that I lived. So you'll be able to tap in and see the perspective of a pastor's child. For any PKs out there, I got you. And for anyone out there who just feels that they would just want to know more, go follow us on our Instagram and just interact with us more. And I'm with my main man, my co-host, the guy himself, always fresh, always clean.
Always fresh, always clean, guys. My full name is Kampe Gomes, but nobody calls me that. I love my name, don't get me wrong, but you guys can call me Kampe. It's calm. So like, I'm the son of immigrants from Guinea-Bissau. I was born in Guinea-Bissau. I moved here when I was like 1 year old. I studied here all my life. Portugal, always been a country that I love, because it's a country that allowed me to actually study and connect to people from different cultures. So I really appreciate that. And me as a person, I love to travel. I love new challenges. Any possibility of getting to know people that have a different background from mine, I'm there. I'm definitely gonna be that person always asking questions and be like, oh, okay, this is what you did. This is where you come from, because I'm actually very I have a big curiosity about what people had to go through their life and to learn from that. That's why we even have as one of our pillars to foster understanding and celebrating diversity. But at the same time, I love streetwear. I love sneakers. If you guys could see the sneaker I'm wearing right now, it's a Yeezy.